Welcome to the Utah Retirement System's webinar series. While this webinar has been pre-recorded, the information is still relevant. Please see the description below for links to the different sections within the video and other helpful information. We hope you find this webinar to be a useful resource in your retirement planning.
Welcome to the Make Your Choice webinar. Today we're going to provide some additional information to help you make your Tier 2 choice. Like Corey said, my name is Brandon Henry. I've been in the financial industry for about 14 years and been with Utah Retirement Systems for about a year now. Today we're going to go over both your employer-based choices, the hybrid and the 401k option, and we're going to help you to have some additional important information to help you make that choice. So our first poll question today is we want to know how long you have been in employment in the state of Utah. So we'll give you a few seconds here to answer those questions. All right, it looks like we have some people on the webinar from each of those categories. A lot of new people, and that's great. All right, so making your choice. So today we want to especially make sure that you understand your employer paid benefit. This is the benefit that your employer is providing you. This is no additional cost to yourself. This is completely paid for by the employer. We're going to talk a little bit about what you can do to help plan for your retirement and help to supplement that employer paid benefit. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a plan of action today. So what does financial security look like to you? What does retirement or being financially secure look like to you? This could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. I know I have a colleague that I work with that she will retire in her early 50s, and her goal is to go back to school and become a nurse and to work in the nursing field until she completely retires. So financial security or retirement can look different to everybody. For some, it may be traveling the world. Others, it may be doing volunteer work or part-time work. And for others, it may be simply spending time with family and enjoying those relationships, or it could be all three of those. So let's look at retirement as a three-legged stool. You're going to have three sources of income to you available when you go to retire. Today, we're primarily going to talk about two of those legs. We're going to talk about your employer-paid retirement benefit and also the opportunity that you have to save for your retirement yourself. That third leg, although it may be a little bit wobbly, is Social Security. Many people ask whether or not that's going to be there. They recently came out and they said if there's no changes made to the system by 2035, you'll still receive about 80% of your benefits. So yes, I believe it's going to be there. There's enough people that's all they're relying on. However, you have the opportunity to have an employer-paid benefit as well as have that additional leg of saving for your retirement yourself. So if we think about this three-legged stool, if I removed one of those legs, I could probably still sit on that stool, although it's going to be pretty wobbly. And if I removed a second leg, it's going to be pretty difficult to sit on that stool and keep balanced without falling off. So it's important that we have all three of those legs and that we do what we can to strengthen the legs, that we have an opportunity to do that as well. So as you're thinking about your Tier 2 choice, one important number I want you to think about is the number 10, or 10%. So your employer is going to provide 10% towards your benefit no matter what option you choose. So if you choose the hybrid option, they're going to put that 10% towards a pension and a 401k. Or if you choose the 401k only option, they're going to put that 10% towards a 401k. Now, this does not come out of your paycheck. This is completely paid by your employer, separate from your paycheck. But every pay period, they're going to take 10% of your gross pay, and they're going to apply to one of these plans, whatever plan that you choose. We like to look at the hybrid option and consider it a big pension and small 401k. As you can kind of see from the graphics on there, we have a big pig and a little pig. And we'll talk a little bit about why we refer to that as a big pension and small 401k. And with the 401k option, we just look at that as a big 401k. So what is a pension? A pension is a lifetime guaranteed income stream. Think of this as like turning on your spigot in your sink. You're going to have a steady flow of income for the rest of your life and possibly the rest of your spouse's life as well. Versus what is a 401k? A 401k is primarily a big bucket of money, not quite the same as the flow of money like a pension. With the 401k, you can choose whatever amount you want to withdraw from that at different times in your life. So two different plans, both very good plans. As we go through these plans today, it's important to realize that not one plan is better than the other. It just depends on your career throughout URS and if you plan on staying in public employment for the rest of your career. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's important. So the two choices you have are the hybrid option or the 401k option. Again, your employer is going to put 10% towards either one of those plans that you have to choose from. Think about this as if you were paid $1,000 every paycheck, 10% or $100 would go to one of these plans, whatever plan that you chose there. And we'll talk a little bit about how each of those work. So first we're going to talk about the hybrid option. The hybrid option we're going to spend a little bit more time on, not because it's more important, but because it has a few more intricacies to it. It has a formula versus the 401k, and we'll kind of explain what that means. But currently, with the hybrid option, as we look at that 10% that your employer is paying towards this benefit, starting in July, 8.97% is going to go to pay for that pension. So we refer to this as big pension, small 401k, and this is exactly the reason. So the majority of that 10% is going to go to pay for that guaranteed income stream, that 8.97%. So that leaves 1.03% left to go into the 401k bucket. So again, we can see why this is a big pension, small 401k is because the majority of the benefit is going towards paying for that lifetime income. So let's look at an example here. What if the pension rate went to 9%, which in July it will be close to that. We can see that if the cost of the pension went to 9%, then we would have the difference go into the 401k contribution. So that 1% would go into the 401k. This rate changes every July. We've seen it go both up and down. So that fluctuation on the 401k is going to be different every year. However, what would happen if the pension cost went to 11%? So as we talked about in the beginning of the webinar, we said that 10% is coming from your employer, going to pay for your employer paid benefit. So in the example, if the pension went to 11% and your employer is paying 10%, we can see that there would not be a 401k contribution in this period. But where does that other 1% come from? So that is going to be what the employee is going to have to contribute. So if it happens that the pension does exceed the 10%, then you as the employee would have to pay the difference. This actually would come out of your paycheck. So in this example, every pay period, as long as the pension cost exceeded 10% or it was 11%, 1% would come out of your paycheck to help pay for this benefit. Now, a couple things to be aware of is this never has happened. Since July 2001, we have never exceeded 10% on the pension. It's not projected to happen. However, many different variables in the economy could cause this to happen. The nice thing is the legislature has put in the bill that basically says if this ever became a burden upon the employee, they can revise this plan. So again, just to kind of repeat, this never has happened, never has exceeded 10%, not projected to exceed 10%. However, there is always a possibility that this could exceed the 10% and the employee would be on the hook for the difference of that amount. Now, a couple ways that you could prepare for this. one thing we're going to talk about, contributing to your own retirement savings plans. One way to prepare if this were to ever happen is to put a percent of your income towards a 401k or a different type of retirement plan. And then if it were to ever happen that the pension exceeded 11% or 10%, then you could subtract that difference from the amount that you were putting in your retirement savings plan, and you would still continue to have the same net income as you did before. So the pension is based on a formula. We're going to talk a little bit about that formula, but our first poll question coming up, our second poll question coming up here is, can people answer, what is a pension? So is this a lump sum payment received by your beneficiary after you pass away? Is this a lifetime monthly benefit based on your years of service and average salary? An employee stock option that allows individuals to save for retirement? Or a hankering for fry sauce? Looks like we have a few that believe that it's a hankering for fry sauce, so which doesn't sound too bad. However, the correct answer is it's a lifetime monthly benefit based on your years of service and average salary. So let's talk a little bit about that. So the way the pension works, as one part of the hybrid option, is we're going to take your number of years of service times 1.5 times your average 5 highest years of salary. Now, it doesn't matter where these highest 5 years come from. This may be in the middle of your career. It may be towards the end of your career. Most of the time, these tend to fall towards the end of your career, but wherever these years fall, we'll take your highest 5 years, average those, and this gives you your maximum basic yearly pension benefit. So when you go to retire, you're going to have a few different options to choose from, but this is going to be your maximum monthly benefit. So let's take a look at an example of how this works. Again, this is only an example. As we do presentations, we have a lot of people look at this and say, oh, okay, now I know how much my benefit's going to be. Your benefit is going to be determined by your years of service, your salary, and the only thing that would remain constant would be that 1.5% multiplier. So everybody's pension is going to be unique to their service. So in this example, we have an individual that worked 35 years in public employment. We times that by 1.5%, so this gives us 52.5%, and we'll just say that their average of their 5 highest years averaged out to be $40,000 a year. So this gives them a benefit of $21,000 a year, or we pay a monthly pension amount, and that would be $1,750 a month. So I think it would be safe for us to say this would not completely fund our retirement, but this would be an awesome leg of our retirement stool. So just think of this as one of your legs on your retirement stool. We want to make sure that we have all 3 of those legs to make sure that we have a nice financial secure retirement. So how do you qualify to retire? The most important number on the screen here is the number 4. Everybody needs to have at least 4 years in the system, no matter what choice you make, the 401k or the hybrid option. You have to have at least 4 years in the system to vest or to be entitled to the benefit. If you have at least 4 years and you're 65, we will pay you a benefit for the rest of your life if you choose the hybrid option, or you will have access to the 401k money that the employer provided, or any age with at least 35. So if you're new in your career, you're very young, let's say you're 20 years old, and you work your 35 years under a URS employer at 55, you could walk away with no reduction to your benefit. However, there are some other qualifications here that we can talk about. So if you have at least 10 years, you can take the benefit at 62, or at least 20 years, you could take the benefit at age 60. However, you'll see a little asterisk next to those 2 qualifications, and that asterisk represents a reduced benefit or an early age benefit. And let's talk a little bit about how that works. let's say that I had 20 years in and I turned 60 and I just decided that I'm ready to retire, I qualify. So what is going to happen? As you can see at this little chart here in the middle, that if I took my benefit and I didn't have 35 years and I was not 65 and I took it at age 60, my benefit would be reduced by approximately 37%. So a pretty big significant reduction to that. So something to be aware of. And you can see every year that I wait, that reduction starts to go down. So if I did decide to retire at 60 and I did have 20 years, I didn't have 30 years, it may be in my benefit to wait to draw that retirement pension, just because I wouldn't want as big a reduction on that. So you could always wait until age 65 to draw that benefit. One scenario may be you put in 21 years, you're age 60, 61, and you find another job outside URS. You could always wait until 65 to draw that pension. However, you do have the choice to start drawing that pension at age 60. If you had at least 20 years, you would just be subject to that early age penalty. So that is the hybrid option. So a little bit more complex than what we're going to talk about in the 401k option. Again, both plans are great. It's pretty rare to have a very rich employer paid for benefit, and it just kind of comes down to what is your career plan if you plan on staying in public employment under a URS employer. So let's talk a little bit about the 401k option. So can anybody tell me what a 401k is? So we have another poll question here. So is it a really long run? Is it $401,000? Is it a retirement savings plan? Or is it an element of the pension? I'll give you a second to answer those. So looks like most people have answered here. So some believe it's a really long run, and I would say, yeah, 401 kilometers would be a very long run. However, the correct answer is a retirement savings plan. So 401k just stands for a code in the IRS tax code, just a way to represent your retirement benefit. If you choose the 401k only option or the defined contribution option, then your employer is going to put 10% of your weekly or biweekly paycheck or monthly, however often you're paid. They're going to put 10% towards the 401k. Now, the 401k is a little bit different, as in there is no formula to determine how much you're going to have when you retire. Where the hybrid has a specific formula, we can go and we can calculate with our years of service times the 1.5% plus our 401k is based on a few different variables. In this example, we can look at one of the examples is the return that you get on your 401k money, or the return that the stock market has. So in this example, this is based on someone who's earning $40,000. The employer is contributing 10% of their salary each pay period, and they have an average salary growth of about 2%. And we can see if they average a 4% rate of return at age 65, they would have about $400,000 in their account. If they average 6% return, we could see that they'd have about $600,000 in their account at retirement time. And then if they received 8% return, they would have almost $1 million in their account at retirement. So one of those variables that the 401k is based on is the rate of return that you receive on that 401k money. I don't know if anybody's heard of the rule of 72, but the rule of 72 is a rule that if you divide your rate of return into 72, it tells you how often your money is going to double. So example, if we got an 8% return, we could assume that our money would double every 9 years. Albert Einstein is credited with saying that compound interest is one of the most powerful forces in the world. And this just kind of shows you that how that is played out with that rate of return and over time as well. We're going to talk a little bit about how time plays a part in your 401k. So versus the hybrid option, we know with the hybrid option, we kind of know how much we're going to receive each month. But the 401k is a little different because it's going to be dependent on that rate of return, plus how much is contributed to the plan, plus however long we're going to make withdrawals or how long our lifespan is going to be. So we have two examples here of a payout with 20 years. So if I turned 65 and I thought my life expectancy was going to be 85, this would show me how much I could take out each month. Or if I thought from age 65 I was going to live an additional 25 years to age 90, we can see what the payout on a monthly basis would be with this 401k. And this is all corresponding or correlates with the rate of return I received. So if I look at the 20-year payout and I received a 4% return, I could expect about $1,000 a month for 20 years. Versus an 8% return, I could expect about $2,300 a month. So again, the 401k plan can be a very good plan as well. You may have the opportunity to actually exceed the hybrid plan. It's just based on different variables. So when can you draw from your 401k? So as we talked about, you have to have at least 4 years of service under a URS employer to be able to take that employer-paid part of the 401k. However, if you were to separate service after that 4 years, technically you can draw from your 401k. Now, you may be subject to an early withdrawal penalty, a 10% early withdrawal penalty, if you are not 59 and a half. So how do you draw from your 401k or retirement savings without incurring a penalty? So first one is you would turn age 59 and a half. So this wouldn't matter if you were continuing to work or if you were already retired. Once you hit 59 and a half, you can withdraw from your 401k money without any penalty. There's also a rule that says if you work until the year you turn 55 and then you separate service, you could also withdraw from your 401k without that early 10% penalty. Basically, the way this works is if you work into the year you turn 55 and you separate service, you could then withdraw from your 401k and avoid that early withdrawal penalty, that 10% penalty. So if you turn 55 in December, but you decided to retire in February of that same year, you could still withdraw from your 401k even though you're only 54, as long as you separated service, because you would have turned 55 in that year. So you could pull out of your 401k without any penalty. And this would continue on until 59 and a half. So if you decided to retire at 56 and separated service, you could still avoid that penalty. There are some provisions if you have a disability that you may be able to withdraw from your 401k without penalty. And then there's a payout based on life expectancy, and this is referred to as a 72T, where you would have to take equal payments on a monthly or annual basis and meet certain requirements, and then you could take out money out of your 401k pre-59 and a half without any type of penalty on that. So those are the choices you have: the hybrid option, the big pension, and the 401k. Again, just to kind of reiterate how this worked, if you received a paycheck for $1,000, $100 would go to pay 8.97% of that $100 would go to pay the pension. The difference would go into the 401k. Or if you chose the 401k option, that complete amount would go into the 401k. Another thing to know about the 401k is if the pension ever exceeded that 10%, there would be no requirement for the employee to make additional contributions to their 401k. So it would stay at that 10% contribution to the 401k. So how do you make your choice? So you're going to want to log into your URS account. You'll need your account number, your date of birth, your social security number, and this will allow you to log into your URS account. Once you do that, you're going to be presented with this screen every time you log in. So for the first year, we're going to bug you every time you log into your URS account to make your decision. So you can see you have three options there. You choose the hybrid option, you choose the defined contribution or 401k option only, or you are undecided. A couple things to know about this is you do have 1 year from your hire date to make this decision. And I would recommend, if you do think that you are going to choose the 401k option, that you do that now, just in case you forget, because once you hit your 1 year mark, you will be locked in at whatever choice you make. If you do not make the decision, if you come in here and you don't make the decision and you hit your 1 year mark, you will default to the hybrid retirement system. So the URS is just going to assume that you wanted the hybrid option. You will be locked in at that. So it's a permanent decision, and you'll need to make that decision, or else you will default into the hybrid option. Now, during your first year, you can change this decision all you want. So if this week you decide you want to be in the hybrid option, you choose the hybrid option. If next week you decided you want to be in the 401k option, you can choose the 401k option. It's just once you hit that year mark, whatever decision you've made is going to be a permanent decision on that. So we want to take you through a couple scenarios here. So in this scenario, we have Jill and Sarah, and they're both in public employment under URS, and they're going to fit two different situations here. So Jill plans on staying in the Utah public sector for her entire career. She's landed a job as a school teacher. She loves it. She plans on staying in URS. She may not stay with the same school district, but she may move around to different school districts in the state of Utah. But she does plan on staying in the URS system for her whole career. She's not very comfortable taking investment risk, and she does like the stability of a fixed income or a monthly income. So kind of think about where Jill may feel, where she may land in her decisions for the Tier 2 choice. And then let's take a look at Sarah. Sarah's not sure if she's going to stay in URS her whole career. She knows she's going to stay at least 4 years, but she's thinking that she's going to go back into the private sector or possibly work for the federal government. She enjoys taking the investment risk. She likes playing around in the stock market, and she likes to learn about the financial markets and economics, and that really excites her. And then we have John. So John doesn't know if he's going to stay in the public sector. Doesn't know if he's going to stay long enough to invest. This may be some of you young in your career. You're not sure if you're going to stay in the public sector in Utah your whole career. Not quite sure if you're going to stay 4 years to vest. So let's look at some considerations here. So as we look at this, we can kind of say that we probably can assume that Jill is going to be in the hybrid. She likes the idea of a guaranteed monthly income. She's not too interested in taking too much risk with her investments, and she knows she's going to stay in the public sector in Utah for her whole career. So she fits up with the hybrid really nice. However, we can see Sarah, she has some different goals with her career. She knows she's going to stay in Utah under the public sector for at least the 4 years. So maybe she'll stay 4 or 5 years, and then she's going back into the private sector, or she's going to go work for the federal government. So the 401k plan fits her very well because she can take that with her. So once she goes into the private sector, if she decides she wants to move that 401k to her new employer, she has that ability to do that. Then we have John here. He's not quite sure what he wants to do. If he's going to stay to vest, is he going to stay the full 4 years? Is he going to stay in Utah? He's not quite sure what he wants to do yet. So let's look at some considerations. But before we do that, we have another question here. We're going to open up chat. What we'd like you to do is kind of just say what you think you're choosing and maybe why. So we'll give you a minute or so to respond in chat here. Looks like we have a few people typing some answers here. All right, we've had a few people respond here. A little mixed. We have some in the hybrid option, and have several looking at the 401k option. They may go back into the public sector, may be looking at working maybe outside of Utah. So good answers here. Looks like a few that are still unsure. They think they like the 401k plan, but they do look like they're working for the state for a long time. Couple with the hybrid here. And then it looks like we have a few that are pretty sure about the pension option as well. So good answers here. Looks like a lot of people kind of know where they land. But let's take a look at John and look at some considerations to maybe help you make that choice better. So here's some things to think about when you're making your decision. So are you going to stay in the public sector in Utah? There's about 480 employers under the URS umbrella, and whether you choose the pension or the 401k option, that is portable. So you can, if you decide that you're going to leave the city that you're working for and you're going to go work for the state, you would continue on in your benefit. However, versus working in the private sector or out of state. If you were to leave after you vested and you went into the private sector, if you chose the 401k option, then that 401k is portable. You could take that to your new employer. Your age and life expectancy. So when are you planning on retiring? Are you closer to retirement now than others? What's your life expectancy? These are some things to consider. If you like that stable income, maybe the hybrid option is more your road there. Your investor risk profile. So are you more of a conservative investor and don't like to take on the risks of the market? Or do you like to be a little bit more aggressive and like playing in the stock market, the bond market? This can help you decide whether the hybrid or the 401k option is better for you. We do have some employers that don't pay Social Security. Social Security, especially in the public safety arena, firefighters, public safety, they may have an employer that does not pay Social Security, so they may have a reduced Social Security benefit, so that the hybrid option may be of interest to them because they know they're going to have at least one guaranteed income for the rest of their life. What's your financial knowledge and or engagement with the market? If you like to be really engaged in the market, you like the idea of investing your own money, maybe the 401k option is better fits you. If this is not really of interest to you, then maybe the hybrid where you put the burden of the risk upon URS and just know that you're going to receive a benefit for the rest of your life. And then your marital status and beneficiaries. With the hybrid option, you have the opportunity to pass the pension on to a spouse. That may be important to you, to leave something to a spouse if something were to happen to you. With the 401k option, you can name any beneficiary. That could be a spouse, that could be children, that could be a charity. You can name different beneficiaries with the 401k, where the hybrid option, you can only pass the pension on to a spouse. So some other considerations to look at here is we talked a little bit about 4 years to gain ownership of the benefits. So regardless of whether you choose the 401k option only or you choose the hybrid option, you will need to put in 4 years of service to be vested or to be entitled to that benefit. So what happens if you leave before you are vested? So if you choose the 401k option, if you leave and you're out of the system, if you leave before you get to 4 years and you're out of the URS system for 10 years, then you will forfeit that 401k option. So if you came back after 15 years, you would have forfeited that 401k option or that account balance. That does apply to the small 401k on the hybrid option as well. Is you would forfeit that if you did leave and didn't come back for 10 years. However, if you chose the hybrid option, you never would lose pension years. So let's say that you worked 2 years under URS, you went out into the private sector, and then 15 years later you come back to work for the state or a school district, someone under the URS umbrella. you would continue your years of service where you left off. So your next year you would earn your third year of service, and you would only have to stay for 2 years to be totally vested instead of starting over. So a couple things to remember with your employer paid benefit is your employer is going to put 10% towards one of these benefits. You have to have at least 4 years in the system to vest, and you have 1 year to make your decision. And then you make this decision as you log into your URS account. So is your employer paid retirement benefit going to be enough? We talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the webinar. Probably not. That's why we say that there's 3 different income sources or 3 different legs to your stool. The employer paid benefit is going to be one of those legs. So let's talk about one of the other legs here. So let's see what we can kind of expect from our payout. So if we look at the single employer paid leg there, we can say if Jill here chose the hybrid pension, the pension and the 401k, so she can expect about $682 a month from the pension, and then that small 401k would provide her about $189 a month over a 20-year period. So about $1,871 a month is what she can expect from her hybrid option. Whereas Sarah, she decided that she wanted to go the 401k option, and maybe she left employment under URS after her 4th or 5th year, but she continued to contribute 10% of her own money. We can see that she would have about $1,892 a month. So the pension and the 401k option are both great options. They match up very similar here, but with Sarah, that would be contingent on that she continued to invest the 10% if she left URS to make up for that amount that the employer was not contributing. So what's your choice going to look like? So we have some calculators on our website. If you go to the urs.org website, you don't even have to log in to access these calculators, but you can run an estimate for yourself to see what plan may be better for you. If you decide that you want to choose the hybrid option, if you want to see what the pension's worth, you would simply choose the retirement benefit estimate calculator. You can go in there, you can put in your years of service that you plan to work under URS. You can put in a salary increase, and you can get an idea of what your pension is going to be worth when you retire. On the other side, if you want to look at what the 401k may be worth, we have a future savings plan here that will give you kind of the future value of what your account may look like. And this calculator allows you to go in and put in your contributions, your employer's contributions, and then the ability to adjust the rate of return. And that's going to give you an idea of how much the 401k may be worth if you go with that option. You can also do this with your own money. If you wanted to put in your own money, in addition to the employer paid part of the 401k, you can add that to it and get an idea of what your 401k or retirement savings may be worth at retirement. So is this going to be enough? Probably not. So your employer paid benefit is probably not going to be enough to completely get you to your comfortable retirement or financial security. So we can see with the savings plan contributions, if you chose the hybrid option, only 1.03% of your employer's money is going towards that 401k and the hybrid option. If you choose the 401k option only, then 10% is going towards that 401k. But how much are you going to put in yourself? We're going to talk about a few different options that you have available. First, we have another poll question here. Have any of you ever participated in a retirement savings plan? I'll give you a minute to answer this. This might be a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, 457. So it looks like about 75% of you have participated in a retirement savings plan. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what that could mean to you by putting your own money towards a retirement savings plan. We talked a little bit about compound interest and the power of rate of return as well as the power of time. That's another aspect of compound interest is time. And in this example, we have Julie who invested from age 25. She put in 15% of her salary. In this example, we're assuming that the individual started out with a $30,000 salary. It grew by 2% a year, and we have a rate of return of about 6.5%. So Julie contributed 15% from age 25 to age 65, which totals her contributions to be about $282,000. We can see at age 65, she has just a little over $1 million in her account. However, Sally decided to wait an additional 10 years before she contributed to her 401k or towards her retirement savings. And we can see that she has almost half as much as Julie does. And so this is, again, is the power of compound interest, the power of time. She put in the same amount, only she waited an additional 10 years before she started that. Now, if you haven't started or if you're not 25 years old, don't worry about this because most of us are going to live in retirement for an additional 20 or 30 years. And my assumption is we're not going to draw out all of our money the first year of retirement, so we're going to have money continuing to grow throughout retirement. So if you haven't started, it's not too late to start because you're still going to be in retirement for a long period, and your retirement money is going to continue to grow throughout retirement. So what options do you have to save for your retirement plan? So as a member of URS, we offer 4 different options to invest your own retirement dollars or towards your own retirement plan. That's the 401k, the 457, the traditional IRA, and the Roth IRA. So what exactly does this mean? So the numbers, the type, these are all types of accounts. So this is not actually the investment itself, but just the type of account that your investments go on. And the type of account determines what type of tax benefits you get. By saving for your own retirement, you do get some tax benefits, and it depends on when you recognize those tax benefits. So with the 401k, the 457, and the traditional IRA, you get those tax benefits now. So any money that you put towards your retirement is pre-tax dollars, so you don't pay the taxes on it now. However, when you withdraw that money, when you're 59 and a half or when you retire, you're going to end up paying the taxes on the money at that time. So everything grows tax deferred. You get the tax deduction now, but you pay the taxes on that money when you pull that out at retirement. The idea behind this is most people say, well, I'll probably be in a smaller tax bracket when I retire, so I'll take the tax deductions now and then I'll pay the taxes later when I might be in a lower tax bracket. However, that's not always the case because most of our employees have a pension, Social Security, and they've saved for their retirement. There is a chance that you may be in a higher tax bracket at retirement because you might be replacing over 100% of your income. This would be an example where the Roth IRA would be a great benefit. With the Roth IRA, you don't get the tax benefit now. However, when you pull that money out, that money would be completely tax-free as long as you meet the qualifications of 59 and a half. Another benefit of the Roth is any of the principal money that you put in, you can pull out at any time without having to pay the taxes on it. So for example, if you invested $5,000 in your Roth and 2 years later it's worth $10,000, you could pull that first $5,000 out and not pay any taxes on that before 59 and a half because that money has already been taxed. The money you could not pull out would be the growth or the earnings on that until you hit retirement or 59 and a half. Then you can pull that out completely tax-free. So which one of these accounts appeals to you? Think about your taxes and where you may be in retirement, and we'd like to get an idea of what type of accounts appeals to you. All right, looks like most people are going towards the 401k. They're looking for the tax deductions now. However, we do have a pretty good percentage that are looking at the Roth IRA. So both great choices. Just depends on what fits your taxes better. So we highly recommend that you choose to save, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that and why that is important. So in our case with John here, doesn't matter what plan he chose, he did choose to continue to save his own money as well. So in this example, we like to show you a few different ways on how you can save. So in this example, John just put 5% of his paycheck towards a 401k. Did that for his whole career. And what that did is that supplemented his employer paid benefit by $760 a month. So not only is he getting the pension, if he chose the hybrid option, or not only is he getting the payment from the 401k, if he chose the 401k, he's getting an additional $760 a month simply by just putting away 5% of his paycheck each pay period. And we're assuming this would last for 20 years. So if he started this withdrawing this at age 65, that would last clear until 85. Another way you may choose to invest is maybe right now you're new in your career, maybe funds are really tight. In this instance, John put away 1% per year and increased that each year until he got to his 10th year. So year one, all he could put away is 1% of his income. However, his second year at his job, he felt like he could do a little bit more, so he put away 2%. And he did this for 10 years until he got to 10% of his income and then just left it at 10% for the rest of his career. You can see that gives him an additional $870 a month towards his retirement. So how do you do this? How do you save for your own retirement? So as soon as you log into your URS account, once you get past the pages where you make your decision for the employer paid benefit, you'll be brought to this screen here. And you'll see most of you will see all 4 accounts available here. This is dependent on your employer, so some of you may not have access to all of these, but most people have access to the 401k, the 457, the Roth, and the traditional. What you'll see with the 401k is it will automatically be opened because no matter what option you choose, your employer is going to put some amount towards a 401k. So you'll see the green button and you can access that. If you wanted to invest in the Roth IRA or the 457, you'll probably see a blue button here that says enroll. By simply clicking on that enroll button, that will open up the account for you, and then you can choose the investments that you want to invest in, and you can decide how much you want to put towards that account. This is also a place where you would select the beneficiaries for your account. So just like we talked about earlier, you can put any beneficiary for your retirement accounts. This could be a spouse, children, charity, anybody you want to name as your beneficiary. Once you access the account you want, so for this example, we're going into the 401k, this shows you with the button here, you can select the contributions that you want to do, the amount that you want to contribute. You can see down here that there are some default percentages. You can do your own custom percentage, so if you wanted to do 1 or 2%, you could put that in there. Or if you wanted to do a flat dollar amount, you could simply do that. So if you just said, I want to do $50 a paycheck, and then that would remain constant. I would highly recommend that you choose a percentage of your income. That way, when your income increases, so does your contribution to your retirement savings plan. If you left that at $50 a month or $50 a pay period, when you got a raise, that would still continue to be that same $50 and would not increase with your raises unless you manually went in there and increased that. So how do you select the investments under each of these accounts? By default, you'll see the target date fund that matches up closest to your 65th birthday. If this is not the investment choice that you want to invest in, simply you can hit Add Investment options here. This will pull up a screen and it will give you a list of all the different investment options that we have available. We have 8 different individual mutual funds that you can choose from, or we have multiple target date funds that you match up with your retirement date, and those are automatically managed for you. They'll rebalance and they'll start to get more conservative as you start get closer to retirement, and that's automatically done for you. So how are you going to reach your goal? What actions are you going to take? Number one, we want you to go in there. We want you to choose the plan that's going to, the employer-paid plan that's going to best fit you. So that's one of the things that we want you to do. Also, save for yourself. We want you to go in and save for yourself. And then many people, as we sit down with people, many people ask us about their old 401k or IRAs that they may have with a former employer. The most common question we get is, can you roll them into their URS 401k? And the answer is absolutely. If you wanted to consolidate some of your old 401k plans, our savings plan department can absolutely help you with that option. And then there's year-round open enrollment. What that means is you can contribute to your retirement savings plans whenever you want. So if you go in there and you put 10% towards your 401k, you can do that today. You can do that next week. There's not a specific date when you have to do that, and you can always change that. So if something happens a couple months down the road and you have to reduce that amount, you can always stop and start that whenever you want. We also encourage you to meet with one of our retirement planning advisors. This is a free hour session that you can come and meet with one of us. There's about 12 of us right now. We do meetings all across the state. And if you're having a hard time making a decision of what option you want to choose there, we'd be more than happy to run a scenario, side-by-side scenario, show you what option best fits you. These are available to you throughout your career. They're absolutely free, no charge. As long as you're a member of URS, you'll always have access to this. And how do you make that appointment? So you can do this in your URS account. So once you log in, you'll see the button up here that says Education. Once you click that, you'll be able to go in and select the individual retirement planning session, and this will show you all the available appointments all around the state. You're a member, so you can go to any place that we have an appointment listed. It doesn't have to be at your employer or just here at our Salt Lake City office. Wherever there's an appointment listed, you're welcome to sign up for an appointment at that place. So kind of a fun little study. Stanford University did this study that showed people, it kind of did a digital aging process here, and they showed people what they may look like 20, 30, 40 years from now, or when they're going to retire. What they found out is when they did this, when they showed someone their older self, that this really encouraged people to save for their financial future. So once they did this, more people were encouraged to go put more money away for their retirement. Kind of a fun little thing you can try. There's a couple apps out there on both the Google Play Store, as well as the Apple iTunes Store. Aging Booth and Oldify are a couple different apps out there. We encourage you for fun to go and try these. You just take a picture of yourself and then it will automatically age you. It's kind of fun to look at, sometimes a little scary. But one thing they did find out is this did encourage people to put more towards their retirement, to educate themselves more, to put more money towards their retirement savings plan. And they also took a better interest in their retirement, where they decided they wanted to educate themselves more about retirement. So just something we encourage you to go and do. So your to-do list, things we want you to do today. If you have the ability, we want you to go in and log into your URS account and make that decision. Most importantly, just because we want you to make sure you choose the plan that you want and you don't just default into the hybrid option if that is not what you want. You'll choose either the hybrid or the 401k option. You do have 1 year from your retirement date to do this. If you don't make that decision, you will be locked into the hybrid option. So especially if you're thinking 401k, go in there and make that decision just in case you forget. And then we want you to start saving. So again, another leg of that retirement stool is going to be whatever you contribute to your retirement. And by having all three legs there, the employer paid benefit, the employee benefit, as well as Social Security, there's no reason you shouldn't have a real secure retirement. Just a couple notices. We talked about different rates of return in here. We just want to make sure that there's no let you know there's no guarantees with the stock market. That these are all based on past performance, and past performance is no guarantee